You're listening to the Psychedelic Couch. Before we delve into today's episode, which includes conversation around psychedelics, we want to remind our listeners that the use of illicit drugs carries significant risks and legal consequences. Psychedelic substances, including but not limited to LSD, psilocybin, DMT, and MDMA, are classified as illegal in many countries, including here in the UK. The possession, distribution, and consumption of these substances can result in legal penalties, including fines and imprisonment. Furthermore, the use of psychedelics can have profound effects on one's mental and physical health. While some individuals report positive experiences, such as expanded consciousness and therapeutic benefits, others may experience negative effects, such as anxiety, paranoia, and psychosis. These substances can also interact unpredictably with medications and exacerbate underlying mental health conditions. They are also not suitable for anyone under the age of 25. It's essential to approach the topic of psychedelics with caution and responsibility. The views and experiences shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be interpreted as encouragement or advocacy for the use of illegal substances. If you or someone you know is struggling with substance abuse, we encourage you to seek support from qualified healthcare professionals or local addiction support services. With that said, let's proceed with today's episode, keeping in mind the importance of informed discussion and harm reduction. So good morning or good afternoon, Valentina. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me today. I thought I'd start by introducing you. So Valentina LEO is a passionate and extremely well-regarded Italian-born Tantra teacher based in Cape Town. At the core of Valentina's philosophy lies a profound reverence for truth and the marvels of embodied experience. She sees the human body not merely as a vessel, but as a sacred gateway to deeper understanding and connection. Her teachings extend beyond the realm of intimate relationships, touching upon every aspect of daily existence. In essence, Valentina encapsulates traditional tantric wisdom for modern living and loving. Welcome.
Yoo-hoo. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful introduction. I love it. You described me well.
Good. So I'm glad I got you. I thought we could start just by talking about what Tantra is. It feels like it's one of those things that people often have misconceptions of. So I'd love you just to tell us a little bit about Tantra.
Yes, and I mean, this is the million-dollar question. Because when I start to talk about it, it's never a little bit, because it's so big and expensive. But in essence, Tantrism is a philosophy. My teacher used to call it a philosophy of freedom. It's a philosophy that supports the revelation of the true human nature. And I mean, and this alone are a mouthful, you know, we could unpack one word by each word. And so I see it as a marvelous map to understand my relationship with life, with reality, and with my own way to be in the world. And so, you know, I think the confusion that we have around Tantrism in our current time, it's because this marvelous teacher called Osho realized that the Western world is really wounded in the realm of eroticism and sexuality. It's a big crack because all our religious tradition have made a clear separation between spirit and body. And so everything that belongs to the body, it's sinful and belongs to the devil. And we should dismiss it and overcome it. And then everything that belongs to the soul is what we're supposed to aspire to. And so they created this tremendous crack in the body of us human. You know, we have the head and the sex. And here about the level of our diaphragm, where we're supposed to merge the bottom with the top, we are all pretty much cut in half. And so a lot of our psychosis and our problem come from this disconnection. And so Osho started to bring a lot of attention around the realm of eroticism and sexuality, because until we heal this wound and bring connection to this organism that we live in, a spiritual advancement cannot happen. And we can have theory about philosophy, about this amazing expanded philosophy, and the theory remain in the level of the mind, and they never integrate with the body. And so, of course, he nailed it. And this is why the Western world responded so well and with a lot of attention to his teaching around sexuality and intimacy and relating. And the problem is that we got stuck there in the understanding of Tantrism. And so now when we say the word Tantra, everybody thinks sex. It's a default. Sexual techniques, sexual practices, and also because the Western world is so drenched in the current of capitalism. So we have to make money out of everything possible. And sex makes a lot of money. And so this tantric philosophy that gives space to sexuality started to become quite consumed, used and consumed. And so it remained attached to the realm of eroticism because also it can be sold much easier. Then move towards the exploration of spiritual self, which seems like a theme that are more esoteric and they're not for everybody. And so we're going to lose attention. And that's why I feel this is what's happening now with Tantrism. But Tantra really is the understanding of what is your erotic relationship with reality, divinity, and the simplicity of your human life. So in Tantrism, we have no separation between sacred and profane. Everything is sacred. My sexual desire are also sacred. I have them, therefore they are a product of the divine. Therefore they're perfect. They're supposed to be here. Otherwise they wouldn't be here. But this required a developed experience of life to accept all of this and take responsibility for one's own life. And so in Tantrism, actually, sexual practice are advanced practice. In the classical tradition of Tantra, we start by teaching the philosophy, and we start to explore your relationship with life, with reality, with consciousness. What is consciousness? How does it move in the world? Which place does it occupy in your life? What does it mean to say consciousness is here, or I am conscious, or I'm elevating my consciousness? All these words have a very clear place in the tantric philosophy. And once we understand this, then we can go into deeper sexual practice. And they become advanced because I know my relationship with my sexuality and my eroticism, and then I can transfer this into the meeting with another. And so Tantra is a big, big umbrella, and it covers the whole level of experience of being a human being. And so sexuality clearly is a big piece, but there is also a big piece on self-responsibility. There is a big piece about understanding the metaphysics of reality. And so the yoga, tantric yoga, it's how I position myself towards existence. The asana posture that we do in Tantra yoga is a posture, is a positioning of my understanding myself towards the events of my life that are happening. What's my posture? It's one of acceptance, it's one of rejection, it's one of meditation, it's one of responding or just being triggered. And so it's big. There is a lot that we can speak into this. So I'm going to pause here.
Yeah, there's so much.
Give you some space.
Yeah, there's so much there to kind of process and think about. But something that really landed for me in what you were saying is this piece about how maybe we've got stuck on sexuality almost as a reflection of the wounding.
Yes.
and the piece around kind of capitalism and how it becomes this kind of money-making system. But in focusing too much on that, we lose the bigger picture, right? We lose this piece about aliveness, that it's a
Yes.
way to experience ourselves as an alive being, and that sexuality and eroticism is part of that.
And I mean, eroticism means of the senses, you know, and we living into this world and we use many senses, including the sense of mystery, you know, our relationship with the invisible. It's a sense also. And unfortunately, we don't use them at the fullness of our capacity because we have a narrative that overtake everything. And capitalism is a big piece because capitalism consume the resources of the planet and consume the human resources to make them into a product that we can sell. So someone is gaining and someone is losing. And in Tantrism, in the true understanding of reality and in true sexuality, there can't be a winner and a loser. We have to all meet on the same level. It's an absolute exchange. There is no hierarchy, you know, and in Tantrism, we always say that when we understand the depth of my own heart, I'm instantly inside the heart of reality. That the art of reality, the metaphysic, how the universe operates, is never separated from how my body and being operate. We are one inside the other. We are in continuous compenetration. But of course, a lot of religious philosophy made us believe that God is greater, is bigger. And so we relate to the divine as little children. And this is politically very useful because then we relate to the world as little children. So we relate to capitalism, to business, to the state of the country as little children. There is always someone that knows better than ourselves. There is always a greater authority that is outside of myself, that I need to bow and I need to pay devotion and stay in the not knowing. Either is big God, or is the government, or is the medical industry, or is the educational industry. And of course, so then what the cost is that we give up our sense of personal authority. So Tantra, as a philosophy of freedom, it's invested in educating you about your absolute authority of your experience in this life. You only know what's best for you, and you have to trust yourself to the point of taking big risks, because that's how you serve reality and life at large, because we are not ever separated from one another. So the little voice that holds or screams inside of you for something that you know to be true is the voice of God. There is nothing other than God moving in the world. So often I get this question from my student, you know, how do I know when it's me and my idea and my ego, and when it's spirit guiding me? And the answer is, well, what part of you is not God? Yeah, it's a big piece to land. When you think, what is me and what is God? I'm already separating the two. There is me and there is God. And my voice might not be right because it's just me, it's only me. And I have to listen to the voice of God because God is bigger and greater. Now in Tantrism, it's the same thing. It's constantly interwoven. It's in compenetration. It's in continuous lovemaking. Lovemaking is a beautiful image to have because one body is inside the other. Like God is constantly inside me, you, everybody. And so when you start recognizing this split of what is me and what is God is going to dissolve, because you are God. Whatever you want to say in this moment, even if is limited, because you have a limited perception of your reality, yet is God expressing through its limited form that is called Claire, that is called Valentina, but it's always divine. And this brings you freedom in your life, that even when you do things that you deem wrong or your society deem wrong, Are they really wrong? Is there even ever wrong and right? If that was your intuitive response to something, isn't that also God moving through you? So this liberates every human being extremely, but of course call for a big sense of responsibility. Then you have to take responsibility of your action, that they might not be wrong, but they might create suffering. So you have to own this. You can't blame anybody. So that takes enormous responsibility in your life. And so freedom and responsibility, they're very close with each other. And so that's why Tantra is not for everybody. It's for people that have done also enough exploration on themselves that they take on this tremendous responsibility. It's a big thing to ask. And so, and some people are not yet there, and it's okay, they're not lesser. They also God, having an experience of their inability to take responsibility for their experience. That too is divine. You know, nothing is lesser than divine. Everything is God.
Going back a little bit, when you were talking about capitalism, I started thinking about the divine feminine and patriarchy. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is a very interesting conversation that I'm having a lot in this time, because we are in this time of opening to the feminine. You know, the last 20 years, we've all been moving towards this way of the feminine. And actually, the reality of what I'm seeing happening around us, a lot of what we believe is the way of the feminine, is still intrinsically drenched in the way of the patriarchy. How patriarchy sees feminism. But through feminism, it's turning our reality upside down completely. And so one thing, the first thing, because you mentioned capitalism, it cannot exist, because the feminism work as an organic network with everything as equal. So if I'm selling a product and I'm gonna find the perfect slogan that is gonna make you buy my product, it doesn't matter if I sell you the teaching of the feminine and the ultimate peace on spirituality. I'm still taking advantage of you to benefit me. And we are all doing this in some extent. And I'm not judging anybody, and probably I'm doing it as well. But I think it's important to unmask it, because it hides so insidiously into pieces, you know? And so I see this wave of spiritual marketing, you know, and this is incongruence. You can't market spirituality because it's a given, it's part of our lived experience. And yet, look at us, we are still marketing it. So it means the feminine way is so scary, because the idea to let go of everything I consider mine, to turning into ours, it means I will have, my ego has a lot of giving up to do. And this is undoing of patriarchy. And it's gonna take another 50 years if we are lucky, you know, but we're gonna get there, I'm positive. It takes a lot of undoing, because these are the foundation of our understanding of being a human on the planet. And it's not just me and you got it from our parent and our schooling, and you know, hundreds years before us. It's been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so the patriarchy differentiate. The feminine include everything. You know, it's, and if you see it from the different way men and women operate in the world, you know, a man put the seed in the body of woman and then can go and do other things. When a woman has the seed in the body, she's bound to the making of this child. She's undifferentiated to the creation that she's making. It's one body. That's the feminine way. And oftentimes when I look at how this appears in the world, is that the true feminine wisdom doesn't have an ego. She, and I speak about she with a capital S, like the force of the feminine, she doesn't need personal recognition. She's aiming for results. And this means that if she, the force of life, see that this mountain needs to move because we need shade in this garden that produce a lot of food for the community, she's going to find way to slowly move the mountain without everybody even notice. She's not going to make it into a big thing, into a revolution where there are names and faces and program and manifestos, because that again enter the psychology of patriarchy where it becomes intellectualized. She's gonna move her body in soft ways, and she's gonna tell story where she seduces the dancers, and slowly, all the women with their hips swaying by one movement to the left and one to the right, they push the mountain on the side, and suddenly we had shade where we needed, and the children are being fed. So she's interested in result, not on the modality to get there. And in fact, she's so humble that oftentimes she's even gonna let the men believe that they are doing it, because the majority of men are really good to get things done. That's it. Not to make a decision on what needs to be done, but just to follow instruction on how to do it. And she can even make them believe that it's their idea. So they have more intensity in the doing. And she can really let it go. But the result happen. And the result for the feminine is that life is pursued on the planet, that we are not getting it extinct, that life continues on the planet and continues with abundance, with respect, with care, with kindness, as a network for the tree, the ocean, the human being, the young one and the old one. This is the real movement of the feminine. Either we all win or we all losing. Even in Tantrism, this is a very fine quality, because, I teach Tantra and I'm invested to my own freedom and to the freedom of my student. But when we go really deeply, we realize that it's not only my freedom, because if I'm free alone in an environment that is still in prison, what's the worth of my freedom? It's not real freedom. My freedom alone is never real freedom. Unless we are all free, then we can taste freedom, really taste freedom. So even the pursuit of spiritual awakening and freedom has to be a collective endeavor. If it's just mine, it amounts to my ego that can say, oh, I feel so free. But if I live in a world full of boundaries, where we are bounded, I can't really taste my freedom to the ultimate.
Absolutely. I'm thinking, how do you see Tantra as a way to be able to kind of process healing individually and collectively?
So the way we see healing from the Tantric perspective is very interesting, because this is a word we use very little. And healing is a default process. It's never the focus of our practice, of our spiritual inquiry. Because every time we name healing, we give power to the wounding. And every time I said, I need healing, what I'm really saying that I am broken. And I keep running the story that I'm broken. And that's endless. And I know this on my own skin. You go from workshop to workshop, there is always deepest healing to do, because the patriarchy is so radicated. I fix something and something else come up, because it has the space to come up. Oh my God, my relationship with my father, my relationship with my mother, my relationship with my sexuality, my it's a continuous healing. And then I saw me, and I see many of my students and colleagues and friends become a frenzy for healing. And what we are actually giving power to is this idea that runs parallel with healing, that I am broken, that I'm not good enough, that I need to better myself and fix myself. And we call this self-harming. It's a very subtle way to self-harm myself, because the conversation I'm having with myself is that I cannot accept myself as I am. There's something intrinsically fucked up.
Or that you're coming from a state where you're lacking the wholeness, rather than the assumption that
Yes.
you're already whole, that you're already God, that you're already everything.
Yes. So in tantric practice, we do practices that connects you to that quality of feeling included into reality. That's why I speak about the relationship with reality. And I know can sound just a beautiful sentence, and what does it actually means? It means this. It means we doing practices where I start to come closer to the aspect in myself that are already whole. They are always whole. They are complete. They can never be broken. And that's the aspect of my divinity. The places where I understand through the philosophy and through the practice that everything is already divine. So even my brokenness, it's an experience of God, of consciousness, experiencing brokenness through me. It's valid. We say it's still Devi dancing. Devi dances through life. And even when there is war, Devi is dancing the experience of loss and sorrow and despair. They're also very valid experience of being human on the planet. Yes, they're heartbreaking and gut-wrenching, yes. And yet they exist. If they exist, it's because God desired them in this dimension. And it's not for my ego to make decision, this is better than that. No, everything is valid. Because when we deny the difficult experience, our capacity to feel bliss, which we could call to be fully healed, is also impossible. We have no capacity to feel. We can't feel the extent of wholeness and totality and be one with God, because it's easy to say it. But when this comes as an experience in your body, your nervous system can fry very easily. You have no capacity to stretch, because love can explode your heart. You need to be able to hold such an intensity, because to feel divinity in your body, it means your ego die. Everything you think you are gets crumbled in the fire of truth. And that feels like tremendous loss and pain. And it's a mourning, it's deep grief. When you're able to feel all of that, then you can move to the extent of this absolute unboundness, freedom, and spaciousness. That's what we call healing. It's remembering everything you are. When you remember everything you are and you really align with them, you don't just tell yourself a story, but you can feel it and enter it with your body in the totality, then all the part of you that were hooked into a broken story, which we called wounding, will dissolve, because that story cannot survive any longer when you have the experience of being total. And so this is how we keep, at least this is what I do with my student. I keep focusing on practices that reminds you, even if there's only a little bit inside of you that is whole, we start from there and we enter that part of you and we expand from there. We call this Shaivat practice. We're leaning on the aspect of Shiva, pure consciousness. We're not looking at the practice of de-armoring the body from your healing and fixing you from the problem, which are very valid. I'm not taking them away. These are just different perspective, and for some people, starting from the wound is really important and valid. And that's why I'm saying Tantra is not for everybody, and it's not for really beginner, because you need to have the capacity to take responsibility for your experience. And if you're still operating from a victim state, because you've been a victim of some very strong event in your life, you have to make peace with that. You have to go step by step. And if you go straight into expensive tantric practice, you could lose the plot and fry your nervous system, because your nervous system is frozen from your experience and you need to defrost it slowly and slowly. So when you're able to enter the practice of Tantra, then we start from the expansion. And because in anybody, so the philosophy and the science tell us that every single cell in our body is intrinsically empty, right? There is more space. So in every contraction, there is space, even within the contraction, even within the freeze response of trauma. Inside that freeze, if we know how to look for it, we will find space. And then we learn to relax into this spaciousness and allow this spaciousness to take over your embodiment. And so we resource, that becomes our resource. And slowly, slowly, this spaciousness defrosts the freezing of the wound. And of course, when the wound defrosts, it's gonna rise. And we are gonna have to be able to take responsibility and say, wow, what an opportunity I've got right now to really re-look at this experience that I lived. But now I'm resourcing from my awareness that everything is divine, that God is right here with me. There is nothing wrong, nothing went wrong when thing happened. And I can take this wounded part of me by the hand and have a softening dance together. As the adult, I take the little child within me, like I lean in the capacity of life in its totality to support my journey into completion, let's say more than my healing journey. When you defrost anything that is frozen, that gets liquid again, the scent will come up. For example, frozen things don't have an odor, and you defrost them and they acquire a smell. So if you froze into the wound and then the wound defrosts, that scent is the narrative, the story, the toxicity that you put away for later and you freeze into it. Because when those events maybe happened to you, you didn't have capacity to really allow your body to feel them. So in Tantrism, all our practice are really aimed to develop capacity to feel, capacity in the nervous system to feel without judgment, wrong, right, just to feel. So when we defrost, a lot of feeling will emerge. And now it's really good that you can have a teacher that can guide you in how to relax in everything that now is emerging, not to be afraid of it, but to embrace it, because nothing can kill you. Feelings can't kill you, although you thought they could. Maybe when you were very young and you didn't have capacity to feel, and you froze those wounds into your body. Now that you're an adult, and what's important about Tantrism, you have a philosophy that backs you up. The philosophy is a manual, manuals that were written 5,000 years ago. They weren't written yesterday or today, but this amazing human being that developed a technique. And many human beings develop technique and they are valid. And they all a repeat of what is already in the original tantric text. And what gives me his power to this teaching for me is that the nature of being human hasn't changed for thousands of years. That's amazing. Our lifestyles have changed radically 5,000 years ago to now. And yet the essence of being human is the same because these teachings are still valid. And so this gives me and my experience, and also what I see in the experience of my student, it gives you a great container to educate your intellect and your mind from when bigger experience start to surface, when you defrost. And now you don't run off in tangent with this big feeling, because what happened when they're so big and you don't have big capacity to feel, the mind is going to come in and it's going to start to pack them into another narrative, into another story. And often it was your fault, was my fault, it's all my fault, I did wrong, or it's your fault. It has to do some blaming because we are unable to feel. And so the mind It's going to produce a story. So you go into the intellect and you don't have to feel it in the body. And again, we freeze. It's another freeze. We leave the body. So the tantric philosophy has this tremendous strength when you lean into it, when you really let it land in your being, when all the story come up, you have a new story that suddenly tell you is no one's fault because there are no faults in life. It's like saying the divine that is supreme and perfect made a mistake by putting me in the wrong situation at the wrong time. Is there any situation that is intrinsically wrong? Is there?
No.
If I lean onto a divine that is perfect, for me, I was born and raised Catholic. I'm Italian, and so there is this split in the mind that the divine is so perfect. It's got all the essence of perfection, created us so imperfect. Why would it do this? Why something so perfect would waste its talent in creating imperfection? It's bizarre. It doesn't make sense, and created imperfection in order to nail it and hammer it with the lesson of life, to punish it all the time. Why would a perfect being do that? Perfection is like when you listen to music that is perfect, it expands your being. Perfection in tantric term, when we translate the word bliss, for example, we say the divine is an embodiment of bliss, is not an erotic high. We translate it with harmony, harmonious joy, where we just go, where we feel we belong and we feel connected. That's what we call divine and perfect. And so if a being like this exists and has created us, the creation can only be an expression of that perfection. That's what in Tantrism we get repeated over and over and over in the text. They constantly take you back to this simplicity. And so although I perceive myself as being imperfect, that's also part of the perfection of the divine design. Shiva decided to have an experience of being limited just because he wanted to experience everything. And so our limit becomes also the joy of living in a body on the planet. Because when we find expansion, it's the experience of finding yourself again, it's ecstatic. And so the narrative in the tantric text, it makes it into a story that is accessible. Shiva was so bored of this ultimate, imbibed, ongoing, perfect, harmonious joy that decided to play a game and hide itself into the world of form, to spend its life to look for himself again. And by finding itself, have this experience of ecstatic joy, of remembering and coming home again. So our journey towards the totality of ourselves, it's a divine journey designed by God. So to come back where we started, my journey towards healing, it's a spiritual journey. It's perfect as it is. And so instead, when we look at the healing like there is a problem, that's where the problem is. We're creating a problem. And we know that people that think of themselves as sick, they will be sick forever. And there is an identity. They start to build an identity on being not good enough, not healthy enough, not intelligent enough, not beautiful enough. And hinders their potential into a celebration of their life. For example, I'm short. I could have fought this all my life, or I can embrace it. Yeah, I'm a really short human being. And I know that Shiva is having an experience how it is to be so small. And when I meet tall people, I ask them questions. Wow, how it is to be so tall? Our experience of life is completely different. Completely. And yet there can be a curiosity and a fascination, instead of wanting to make every experience the same, you know? So we're all looking for healing because we all want to be like that one that we project perfection onto.
That there's an assumption that we're broken because we buy into the narrative that we have of our experience, rather than accepting the divinity as it is in our most beautiful form, that we are the expression of God.
And even more, instead of just accepting it, because this is also a passive way, accept that you are divine. Tell this to someone depressed. It means nothing. You know, it's like, what the fuck you're talking about? But to develop curiosity for your experience in this planet, in this moment now. Just that. And don't travel to the future and don't travel to the past. Be here now, you know, Ram Dass. This is the essence. My friend even say, no, be now here. Because if you are here, your mind can still travel everywhere. But if you are in the now, you can only be here. So be now. You're always here in the now. This is what Tantra speaks about. It doesn't even tell you it was better 5,000 years ago. This, you know, a regression. I see it was better before the tradition. Be right here, right now, with all you've got. All the tools you have right now are enough for you to meet this moment with curiosity and wonderment. This is key to understand Tantrism, because then you don't have to fix anything and you don't have to measure yourself against anybody. Because that's what the problem, you know, we constantly measure ourselves against someone that we perceive to be bigger and better and more than us. And then it's always a race towards, and you were not here.
Or the other way around, that we put ourselves above. So there's this constant reference,
yes.
right? That I am better than you, I am more important than you, or you are better than me, you are bigger than me. It's this constant, and love can't exist when there's the one up and one down.
Yes, it's power over and power under, overpowering. That's capitalism, right? Overpowering, taking advantage of some situation so that I can be bigger and better and richer. And then what do you do there? You're still stuck in one side of the polarity. You're polarized and you're missing the integration of the totality, that when we can be together. And so every experience is a teacher. And we say even more, every experience is a celebration. And I mean, this is a big piece, because when you're depressed, it's really hard to celebrate, because we think that we're celebrating, we have to be dancing happy joy with a big smile. No, we can celebrate deep grief and go deeply into the grief and shut everybody out with awareness and say, I am grieving now, and ask for our circle of support, our true friend, to hold space for us. Make sure we have food and make sure we come back, and they can say, okay, we give you 3 days. After 3 days, we're coming in. We don't want to lose you into grief, but go into it, explore it. Enter the agony of being alive in a human body, and then come out and bring us the gifts. Share with us what you discover.
I just hearing you say that, I have had goosebumps all over me. You know,
Yeah, me too.
I work with my body, you know, in my work with clients, and that was so profound. You know, that beauty and that experience of going deep within the most pain that we can experience.
Yeah, because we are all afraid. You know, I'm also touched when I say this thing, because I also live in the world, and we are afraid to go into grief, and we are afraid when our friends do that. And we want to cheer everybody up. This is the society we live in. Oh, you're sad. Come, let's go out for drink. Let me help you not to think about your pain. And I feel a true friend would say, all right, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to help you to think about it deeply. And we could have a drink together. Sometimes spirit help to go into the grief. And let's go into grief together. And maybe it's 2 or 3 of us. Don't need many. 2 friends, and I can witness you while you're going into the grief, so that your grief will serve everybody that it's here, you know. And this is so important for our society. That's why Tantra comes in there, because we celebrate grief. We celebrate loss and longing, and there is this idea that Tantra is on the high celebration of happy sexuality where everybody has to be polyamorous and we have to just love everybody. That's a distorted perception of Tantra, actually, which is being manipulated by the commercialization of it, because we all want to go into the high. And if I sell you a workshop where I tell you we're going to cry for a whole week, no one will want to come, because we all believe that if I cry for a week, I'll be doomed and finished. And I want to be happy. And the problem that when we avoid the grief will always going to catch us by our balls, like you say, or by our throats. Is not letting us go. It's like the core wound. You need to find your core wound and take it to the party over and over and over to befriend it. It's never going to leave you. Grief is never going to leave humanity. Grief is part of being human. So if we can start celebrating our fear to be abandoned, we can celebrate our jealousy, go into it and name it, and lean on some friend and say, my God, I am so scared of loving too much. I am so scared of losing my beloved, of losing my identity, and be really honest about it. That's when we start seeing that everything conspires for your spiritual awakening. Reality, it's a benevolent force, and is here to support your spiritual awakening. And all these things we think are happening to us, all these events, they are happening for us. They're not happening to us. They're happening for us, for us to meet more of ourselves. That's spiritual awakening. This is the tantric vision. I know I'm taking you into a deep end, and maybe some listener can think, oh my God, this is so big. What does it look like in real life, But it looks like this, in making small community and stop being afraid to name our true feeling. And for me, this is, we have a lot of spiritual teachers in the world with tons of followers, millions, and then explode the scandal. Often is a sex scandal.
Yeah.
It's because they are humans. And if they just want to show you their perfection, where are they hiding the imperfection? Somewhere they must hide it. Because if they're true human being, they have to have it. They have to have it. Otherwise, they couldn't live on this dimension. This is the dimension of duality. So they also have fear of loss and fear of abandonment and maybe insecurity around their sexuality. And so those comes out distorted and covert because they're selling their appearance as uber spiritual beings that don't need the body. And guess what? The body is going to come up with sexual desire to remind them, hello, you've got me. I'm the most spiritual aspect of your being. Take care of me. And I have desire. I have sexual desire because this is the only way life can ensure his continuity. Sexuality is the most important aspect of reality on this planet. Otherwise, we will be extinct and we can't even sit here and have this amazing philosophical conversation.
Yeah, tell me more about how sexuality fits into this, because you've described so beautifully this sort of process that we go on as individuals, and I can so see that the sexual practice is an advanced piece to this, because there's so much work or so much happening that one needs to do on an individual basis before we move into that space. Almost feels that it could be dangerous to move into that space when you're not ready. I don't know. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's dangerous to move in any realm when you're not ready. It's good you do some preparation. look, we can speak about this. It's such a big topic and it's so exciting and inspiring. And I'm so glad that there is more and more of this conversation happening around sexuality. Right now, in this moment, I feel I'm going to bring what we've been talking about, that is grief and dying. You know, sex and death are really close to each other. And this is a taboo also. It's something that is not much spoken about it. So I'm going to take advantage of this platform you're offering me today to also bring this conversation that great sex equal to great dying. You know, because sexuality is a portal to what is of the realm of beyond the body. And by paradox, we need the body to get there. So we need to physical body to do a physical activity that has to do with sexual stimulation, stimulation of erogenous zone, touch, smell, kiss, body moving against each other is very physical. Pleasure, it's a very physical thing. And then if you're able to really enter pleasure with totality, without any taboo, without any limit, without any shame and guilt that comes from education and social structure and belief system, if you are able to let all of that go and enter into the realm of pleasure as a portal and really enter in the sensation of that, then you go beyond the body. Is the most beautiful paradox. You need your humanity to go to the place of divinity. Without the body, you cannot. Without the body is a bypass. And this, when I make the example of the true spiritual teacher, they sit there and they look, they're always like this. And we all believe that to find realization, we need to deny the body. This is another way to deny the body, to keep it still and keep going into the emptiness of the mind. And then the shadow of eroticism come out another way. Is because, according to the tantric tradition, you cannot find divine by bypassing the body. You have to enter the body. And when you enter the body, you're going to go through stages of everything that is of the body. Grief, loss, dynamic mommy and daddy. You become a little child. And so often in lovemaking, tears are coming. Anger can arise. If we are relaxed enough and we are with a partner that is not afraid to meet the untamed, wild sexuality. Wild means not domesticated, you know. So you can ululate and gyrate and sing and stand and cry, because all of this really arises in the body that becomes free. And that is absolutely erotic. That is absolutely of the realm of sexuality. That is an amazing turn on when we make love in truth. And our insecurity will come up. I make love the majority of the time. I have sex because when sex, you know, enter my heart, you know, the true movement of sex, they start in the genitals. But the genital are instrument of the heart. Sex always is of the heart. The heart that needs, in this reality, needs to develop a capacity to feel everything. So it uses the genital to feel into the world. Pleasure, if you can withstand a lot of pleasure, it will develop a capacity to feel. And so man has a penis that is like a finger or an arm that stretch out into the world. For masculinity is to bring their love, what they care deeply about, into the world, their mission in the world, because their sex is visible, it can be seen, and they penetrate reality with their dream, their desire, their love, when it's pure. And it's really valid. These are great leaders and great warriors, and we need them. And even if you anatomically, you look at the tip of the penis, there is a heart, the gland, it's in the shape of a heart. It's like this, right? On top. And so this is what I love of Tantra, that takes everything. Life gives us so many symbols. The mystery are only mystery because we can't see, but everything is already revealed. If we have eyes to see, and if we see with the eyes of the innocent child, the eyes of the heart, everything is already there. And for women, the yoni open, and she opened to the depth of the heart. When a woman is penetrated, penetration doesn't end at the end of the vagina. It ends at the heart.
Mm.
So we know how to contain the enormity of feeling and emotion of being human. We hold in the capacity of compassion and inclusion. Everything is inside of us, inside the body of woman. Yeah, how the capacity, the women have to feel everything. The shadow that when we don't channel it, we feel too much and we become crazy and hysterical and we don't know how to contain it. It's too much. So sex has this tremendous ability to teach us how to contain it. You know, when we say men should fuck their brain out, and we say it in street jargon, but it's really important mantra. Every woman should get their brain fucked up. You know, fuck my brain out, meaning fuck my tendency to think about my feeling.
Yeah.
And enter my body, enter me, penetrate my matter. So we like to be taken, to be felt, to be tasted. You know, that rough sex is really tantric, you know. The difference between ravishing, which every woman love, and raping, which every woman dread, is the capacity of the other person, the ravisher or the rapist, to be in their heart. If the man is deeply in his art, he will ravish a woman for her pleasure and for his pleasure. If a man is disconnected from the heart, deeply wounded, deeply abused, this cut in half by event of his life and tradition and philosophy also, he will have the capacity to rape a woman because he can't feel anything in his heart. His penis is not connected to his heart, so he can do a lot of damage. But the man that has his penis connected to the heart cannot do damage. It's intrinsically impossible because every human heart is ultimately connected to the heart of reality. So reality would never hinder its own expansion. In a sense, already how sexual tantric practice can bring back connection, healing, or sense of totality is when we meet them like this. So of course, there are advanced practices because for a man to stay connected to his heart while he's feeling a lot of pleasure requires some sort of training, some degree of training, not so much as we believe, but some awareness, even just listening to this conversation. You know, when often I have conversations with men, I don't teach them any practice. I just tell them, connect your penis to your heart, especially when you have sex. That's all you have to do. Breathe and constantly ask yourself, is my penis connected to my loving, to my heart, compassion? Then you can trust that everything you do, it's in perfect alignment with what needs to happen.
And sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking, someone I was having a conversation with recently, it was a man, about, we were talking about kind of breathing from the genitals to the heart, that kind of breath, and they were experiencing, I just don't know what you mean. I don't know how to do that.
Exactly.
So, you know, on the most basic level, how does one do that? How does one feel?
Well, you imagine it. It's true. Many people don't know what are we talking about. I know, I'm aware of this. It's a lot of the thing I'm saying, people say, how the fuck do you do that? I mean, it sounds lovely. And so that's why Tantrism rely with story. Imagine it. Use your imagination like a child imagination. And imagine that your genitals are inside your heart. And your heart is inside your genital. And so we work with visualization. Your eyes are closed and you breathe deeply. I often tell women to imagine their mouths that breathe it's inside the heart. And then it's inside the yoni. The yoni is another mouth we call labia, lips, the vaginal lips. It's so simple. There are lips. These lips, this is a yoni, turns around. If I open like this. So the connection is already there. And so we imagine it. I don't teach technique any longer. I expand the power of the imagination. If you imagine it in your mind, it becomes real. And slowly, slowly, you're going to start to feel it and to have sensation about it, you know? But it's never like the right technique. We're all waiting for technique. And then in the moment when everything is connected, there's going to be a revelation. No, it's you knowing that they are connected, not doubting it. That's your starting point. And then you're having an experience of having sex. And every moment you're thinking, am I connected? Am I breathing with my mouth only? Oh, let me breathe with my heart. Let me breathe with my yoni. I've got a penis inside my yoni. Am I sucking it? Am I caressing it with my yoni? I'm just laying back and let this event happen. Or am I participating with curiosity and wonderment? And it doesn't mean I don't know how to do it with my muscle. It doesn't matter, but it's an idea. If you start thinking, okay, my yoni is capable of hugging a penis, of sucking it in. We say milking the penis because we have the muscle of the yoni that are designed to suck in. And every woman naturally knows this because it's our body. And naturally the yoni does this, sucks in. So if a woman starts to even just imagine it, have a picture in their mind, it will begin happening. And so I just remember that I wanted to connect this piece with grief, because there is a lot of grief also in honest sex. Because when two hearts connect, everything that was stored in the heart that we put away for later is going to be felt now. When we are penetrated at the level of the heart, for a man and for the woman, tears will come because we are opening the heart, and tears lubricate the heart. Like we have genital fluid that lubricate the genital. You know, we have precums in men, we have lubrication in the vagina. The lubrication for the heart is tears, are the emotional tears. And my invitation is for everybody, if you feel just a hint of grief in lovemaking, go right in it. Don't avoid it because you think you should have a great time. That is having a great time. You are having a fantastic time. You're opening your heart. And when you let that grief, that anger, to be, if you are with a partner, you can make agreement before lovemaking and say, hey, I would like to feel everything and to experience everything. Even if it looks weird, even if it looks like tears or shouting or sounding in a weird way, will you support me? Will you make this agreement to stay in the space together? Because oftentimes, particularly women are really afraid to scare the man because we can go so fucking wild. We start to feel and it goes in the head, and we pull in the hair because the energy, it's moving, it's in the throat, and like we want to, say things and make sound. Women sing during orgasm. We generally are afraid that this guy is going to think, oh my God, she's a loony, and what am I doing here? So you can make agreement before. Will you stay with me? I'm not going mad. I'm just feeling everything. And for men, it's also true in the opposite, that they can become extremely tender. I've been with men that in the depth of penetration start sobbing because they also are touching. The moment their penis goes so deep inside of me and it touches my heart, the awareness of their own heart start happening. And when my heart open, their own heart open. And they're going to have tears and they're going to think, oh my God, I'm a man. I'm not supposed to cry. Generally, never mind now having sex. This woman, she's going to lose respect for me. I've lost her now. She's not going to be turned on by me ever again. And that's absolutely not true. In my inquiry with many women, when men are really honest and they start crying in lovemaking, oh my God, we get turned on, because women are turned on by truth. Truth belongs to the realm of the heart. And so this is tantric sexuality. And now you understand it's advanced, because many people are really uncomfortable to be honest and to be deeply intimate.
And to go to those depths.
To go to those depths. Because that's really intimate now, That's true intimacy. We reveal each other in the places of deeper feeling. And so if we allow ourselves to be there, grief is a tremendous portal for heightened pleasure. I think that true sexuality can only move through grief, because grief is the eroticism of the heart. And ultimately, for a soul to be alive in the body, there is deep grief of letting go of the totality. Yeah, when we are one with God in that realm where we are everything, in order to come here, God, the divine, sacrifice its ability, and I'm not saying he, I say it, because I don't want it to be gender oriented, but God sacrificed its ability to be everything in order to be limited. There is some grief there, but it's sweet grief, the beautiful grief, because when I'm in the body, I can make love. I'm learning what it feels like to long for love, to love until my heart aches. Only in a body you can have this experience. This is amazing. This is unique. So, but grief goes alongside with expanded loving. And so grief is the portal for heightened space of spiritual awakening and ecstatic eroticism. We need to accept that. Grief is at the core of the most beautiful music that we love. In Sanskrit, there is one word, rasa, R-A-S-A, rasa. And rasa is associated to the arts, music, dance, poetry, architecture, all because only the arts, or often in the realm of the arts, you see something, a painting that gets you somewhere, and there is a brief moment where you can sense or feel or have an experience of rasa. And rasa means that you suddenly realize you are more than this one looking at the painting, that you are more, that there is something stronger and bigger, and it's got a quality of ecstatic, is ecstasy, and a slight grief too. You have these dry tears. You are crying with no tears, but that crying that is an expansion of the heart. And it can happen by watching a dance movement, or someone reciting poetry, or watching a movie, reading a book. Those moments where your emotion, you almost going overwhelmed. And it contains this tremendous ecstatic expansion. It has beauty and a hint of grief. It's so beautiful that you want to cry. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I need to cry about it, because tears lubricate the heart that expand, like the yoni that opens in sex. This is the eroticism of life. Grief lubricates the expansion of your capacity to feel more. And so they go hand in hand. Death, dying, in order to understand living. That grief will give you an insight on how it is to be alive.
Wow. So much there.
Let me pause here.
Wow. Is it called Eros and Thalamos? What is it called? The the love grief thing, or love death?
I have no names. I just simply call it love and grief.
Grief, yeah.
love
Yeah.
and grief. I mean, and if you want to look at the archetypal of Greek mythology or Roman, you will find this story, because this is natural movement of life.
Yeah, and they sit closely.
You know?
They sit so closely together.
They are intertwined. They are in constant love making. This is why sex is also a beautiful symbol for tantrism, because this is where also there is a lot of I mean, that's what Osho saw the sign very clear. All the majority of the tantric texts that you can recognize as tantric is a conversation happening between Shiva and Shakti while they are intertwined in lovemaking. She sits on his lap. So they are in lovemaking. They are compenetrating each other. And on a first level of understanding, the most earthly realm is the masculine principle, Shiva, the man, talking to his beloved, the Shakti, while she asks him question about reality. And she says to him, can you explain reality to me in a way that my body can understand it? And the answer is already given by the setting of the scene. If you have to set it as a cinematic sequence, you would put them on top of the mountain, because archetypally they're on top of Mount Kailash. So they are at the peak of realization, and during their lovemaking, the whole of reality is created. And she's asking me, how can I understand the mystery of reality, but tell me in a way that I don't have to understand it in the brain, that I understand it through the body. And his answer then is the whole book that starts telling you the philosophy. But every book is concentrated in the first sutra. And the first sutra is where all the answers are. If you are advanced, you can read it and stop at the first sutra. If you are a beginner, which means you have to undo all your foundation, then read the whole book over and over. But if your foundation are undo and you have clear seeing, they are making love. The answer is already there. How can God teach me about the reality of life? It's by lovemaking. It's by using the body and entering the mystery of the body. And everybody on the planet does this thing. It's not like, go hiking on the top of the mountain, that some people do, some don't. Sex, we all have. So this is accessible to everybody, as it should be. The mystery is intrinsic in the experience of being human, and it was put in such a simple form that is your sexual desire, and everybody make love. And the books are telling you, it's right there.
Yeah.
There. You all know it. So enter your body when you make love and feel it with your open heart, with the curiosity, with an inquiry to God. Like she asked the question while she's making love. She represents humanity. So the whole humanity, while you're having sex, ask the question to God. How do I know you? How do I understand you? I ask the question while you make love. This is what the book is hinting. And it's the manual. It's a suggestion. Take it or leave it. But it's already there at the beginning.
If listeners were keen to know more, what would you suggest, for people that were just starting out on this journey or wanting to explore more?
Well, it seems lame, but I would say start on Google. It is the oracle of our day, and so let's accept it also,
Yeah.
because every teacher is going to have different way to open portal. Every teacher is a guide that open different door, and I think every human being has a resonance that is unique to them, and they will resonate with certain teacher and maybe not so much with other. It doesn't mean that I like this tantra or that tantra. Is every teacher look at aspect. It's like a lens in which to look. So I'm looking at the lens of fascinating wonderment, curiosity, and openness, celebrating. It's this lens. If you have curiosity, you can be curious about your depression. Curiosity will open up space. You can be curious about the reason why someone died, your daughter committed suicide. You can go into absolute devastation, or you can start to develop a curiosity about this experience. What does it do to me? What does it do to the other? Then you start to bring an inquiry, a living inquiry into your life. We call it celebration, but it's an inquiry. And so I would say start with Google and see who's out there and what they do, and don't respond with your head, but let your heart be touched. Let your sex respond. You know, oh, you've been erotically aroused by this teacher or that teacher. There's an energy also in your genital that gets activated. Good. This is a sign. You know, genitals are antennas that guides you into this earthly reality, you know, and your heart takes direction from the heart of reality and uses the genital as outlet. So genitals have absolute wisdom when they're connected. And so I would say follow the teacher that arouse you spiritually. We call this spiritual arousal, that your quest for God is exciting in your body. It's not a duty. It's not something that has to be heavy and difficult. And this is old school. You know, this is how we study religious in the past, because it's important. We associate importance with boredom and fatigue. And Tantra associate learning as an act of love and love making. You know, the teaching needs to enter your body. So if you're open and excited, whatever a teacher is telling you, it's landing, you're available. But if you're like this, you know, it's just enter here. So my suggestion that you follow a teacher that really ignites a fire in your being, that makes you go, yes, you know, and then go. And those teachers will take you to other teacher, you know, and then how you start. And then you'll find, you start to refining your search, you know, you start to defining, okay, I want to go deeper into this aspect or that aspect. Because as I say, Tantra is like the multidimensionality of our existence. And there are so many ways to enter it. You know, I started by practicing classical Indian dance. So I met Tantra through dance, which is one of the temple arts, you know. And so I realized musician, you know, there is a lot of Tantric philosophy that is imbibed in the structure of classical Indian music, you know. It's very tantric. And so some people will maybe have a tantric journey through their music, if they are musician, or through their painting, or through their dancing, you know, and it's all valid. For me, is to bring the aliveness of Tantra into everybody's life. And lovemaking is another art, you know. It's like we are the artist and the object of our art, and our lovemaking is it's art. Is the art of the heart. I still define myself as an artist before I say I'm a tantric. Because to be an artist of life, artists are curious. That's the seed. Artists, in whatever craft they do, choose one thing, do it well. And to do one thing well means be an artist of it. Be curious.
That's beautiful.
Let it fascinate you. Let it consume you. Either is writing a book or planting, gardening, you know, and then you become a tantric already. And then find a teacher that can help you, maybe reading the now I'm having a retreat coming up in June where I teach the text, and then we go into practice of touch work, advanced touch work, like love making with the cosmos. So we study with the intellect in the morning, and then we bring this knowledge into the body, into the membrane of the body, and we experience it as a connection with another. So we do partner practice. And then we learn it. This is through learning. Then we know it in the body, not because I told you, not because teacher told me this is like this. No, either you know it in your body or you haven't learned it until you learn that you can say, I know in my membrane. Then we just repeating, we mimicking. This is patriarchy. The teaching of patriarchy, where we're learning by the intellect, and we maybe don't know it for real, but this PhD said this, and I'm writing another PhD, so I'm gonna have to take on the theory, and I make the assumption is true, and I take it further, but we never go and actually challenge it.
And experience it viscerally, yeah.
Yeah, and make it mine. Because patriarchy taught us, oh no, they are the PhD. Academia acknowledge the experience. So we start with that this is true. And how can you build your true knowing if you haven't challenged what is true? You know, and so this is the feminine way to use your body as an antenna for truth. And also to find a teacher. If your body opens and relaxes, then the truth is moving you. Arousal is truth. When the truth enter me, we all go, zzz. I was feeling, oh my God, something happened. I don't know what, you know, but it means the truth is landing in your heart. And if we have to force it, then maybe this is not the teacher that can match your temperament and your level of awakening in this moment, you know. And then as you change, you know, you change teacher and you move on.
Valentina, is there a question that you'd like me to ask?
Oh, I feel, no, I wish what's alive in me is that I maybe wished to ask me more questions. As I warned you at the beginning that you open a door and I ran into tangent because probably you could feel it. It aroused me. I feel so excited to speak about certain things. And Tantra is my love, is my beloved, is my long life quest. And for me, it's always so alive. And when I speak about Tantra, my body comes alive. And it's a love making. Sometimes I can't stop it. It's like a wild horse. So right now I feel, oh, I wonder if I spoke too much, if I went too far out, if I've been too philosophical, and maybe you needed something more practical.
No, I mean, I think you told us, because I wanted to reference the experience that I had with a gentleman that said, I just can't feel, I don't feel the heart, I don't know what you mean, kind of heart and genitals, I just can't feel. There was sort of a lack of interoception. I think what you're saying is using visual imagery really helps just to allow someone to really have that visceral experience, which then helps to connect. And it's a practice, right? The more you practice that, the more it becomes embodied and it becomes an easier experience for the person to grasp.
Yes. And sometimes, so this is true, because, you know, there are many polarity that can exist at one time because we are different. A lot of the time when people tell me I can't feel, that's already the feeling. So I tell them, well, feel the numbness. My heart is numb. I can't feel. Well, you're feeling numbness. If you can say my heart is numb or I'm feeling frozen, I can't feel anything, I'm frozen. Okay, that's a feeling. To be frozen. Enter that. Close your eyes. Describe to me, what does it look like being frozen? Has it got a color? Show me with the gesture in your body. And then everybody has answer. I notice in my practice, you know, they can tell me exactly, oh, it feels sharp. Oh, it feels like gray. Oh, it looks like this. It looks like this. It's got sharp point. Oh, it's a solid center. All of this, it's giving a language to sensation. And a lot of the time, I think also we don't have emotional intelligence. We don't know how to name it.
we don't know how to name it, and it also takes the person out of that deficit that there's something wrong with me. You know, why can't I do
Yes,
it? I'm broken. So it's back to this
yes,
piece,
yes, yes,
but
yes.
full circle to the healing. Actually, there's nothing to heal. What you're experiencing is something called numbness. Or what word do you want to
Yes,
put to that? It's an experience of something. Tell me more about that, rather than it's
yes,
broken, it doesn't work. Or again with pain, right? Clients that are experiencing pain, it's a sensation. Tell me about that
yeah,
sensation, or move into that, rather than appraising it as a certain way.
yeah, yeah. Because that becomes the identity. I'm broken. And again, I can't feel anything. I know it. I've been diagnosed. I've got this diagnosis, and this is how it is. Let's be curious about it. Again, that's where curiosity and wonderment, fascinating. My school is called the Tantra School of Fascinating Wonderment. Some people say, oh, my boyfriend left me, I'm heartbroken. Oh, fascinating. And how is it moving for you? All my ideas are out of the window. Fascinating. I thought I was so advanced that I could manage all of it, and now I'm broken. I'm melting like ice cream in the sun. Fascinating. And I would say, okay, let's carry on. What flavor ice cream? Is it on the pavement? Give me the picture, and I close my eyes. Give me this picture, like art. This is art. And so again, you invite this person that thinks to be broken into the artistry of their humanity. Yeah, tell me about your numbness. Talk to me about it. And sometimes I tell them, talk to me in a poetic way. Like, if it was a landscape, would it be winter, summer? Or, oh no, it's a summer storm. Summer storm. So we all have a feeling, is it got thunder, but it's sweaty. And now they go for themselves, because everybody have experience of living life. Everybody experience winter and summer. Everybody experience wet and dry and sharp and soft. Everybody experience color. So I tell them, I use poetry. This is also Tantrism. Use a lot of poetry, because the poetry open the heart. We become children. So the adult would say, oh no, I've been diagnosed. I can't feel anything. I know this. Okay, tell me your numbness using like a season and a landscape. Now we enter the wonderment of being alive. Oh, what time of the day? It's the dawn, or it's definitely midday. Then it's hot, it's intense. Okay, it's midday. Where are you? What color? And I am so surprised by what people bring to me. So here I am, the very developed, advanced tantric teacher. This is what people project on me. And I am with the beginning that knows nothing of Tantra, and they tell me I'm broken, I can't feel. And I just have this key to crack the places, and I go back at the beginning, where I know they have everything they need. They have all their own resources, which is resource from life. She is benevolent, and she's with you. And what they bring me, I fall in love over and over again with the power of the human nature and how life teach me. And I crack in tears because I can access my heart so immediate, and I just cry with them by the beauty of what they share with me, and by the fact that they know so much about the human experience. They just don't give it value. They don't give it power. Because again, as we mentioned earlier, we give authority away all the time. That's what patriarchy, how they hold us down, that we must give authority. Everybody else is no, and I know nothing, and I am broken. And when you start to say, no, sorry, I don't buy into that story. I don't buy in that story. That's already what I do with my nervous system. So let's enter actually your human experience. Let's see what's get revealed here. And then I always see there is an immense wisdom, really rich wisdom that everybody carries. And we resource from that. And now I didn't heal them. I'm not a healer. Tantra is not a healer, but as a human being, just gave me the key called curiosity.
and
and
remembrance
fascination
and
and
remembrance.
remembrance. And I opened that door, and then they did everything by themselves. And that's self-sustainable. They would walk away with a resource that is theirs. Because if I am the tantric healer, they put it all on me, and I'm the one that I'm gonna put a hand on your forehead, and I'm gonna make you. I can do this. You know how this thing work, because they believe that it's gonna work. If they are giving me the power to do this, I don't think I have superpower, but I know that what you believe goes. And if they believe, and I make them believe, I reinforce they believe that I'm gonna touch you now, and all the energy in your body is gonna move, and you're gonna feel your kundalini. Chances are it's gonna happen. But I'm not doing it. Still, they are doing it to themselves, you know. But I egoically could take it on to me, you know. But then the point is that they have to keep coming back to me to have that experience. They think I gave it to them, and it's not sustainable. But in capitalism, I would want to support that, because that gives me a lot of power, and it gives me all their money. So I think really I'm really against any business, you know. It's like I don't sustain my business, because I try to empower my student as much as they can, as quick as they can, so they don't come back to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not resourcing from financially from them, and sometimes I think, oh God, if I only could do that a little bit more, could also help me with my financial structure, but I just can't, because it's not fascinating for me. There is no wonderment. It's dry for me, you know, and I'm running on an old story that I want to break away from. So when you give them the experience, they have resources, and they go back into the world as empowered being, and they remember their own authority, and hopefully they can apply it. And sometimes they still come back to me because they need to eradicate it in their body. You know, they need to have more experience, you know, and I just guide them towards themselves until they learn how to guide themselves.
Valentina, thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours. It's been absolutely fascinating.
I know, me too.
Thank you very much. And just remind listeners where they can find you.
I have a website called fascinatingwonderment.com. And there is everything about me, my courses, in-person, online, contacts. Also on Instagram is Tantra School Fascinating Wonder. But there is a link on the website also. So on the there is with links to my social media. Thank you for giving me this space to air out and give breath and voice this tradition, which is a song, really. It's, for me, it's an act of creativity, you know. That's Tantra. You know, I go back to your first question, because when you first asked me the question, you know, it's really difficult to give an expansive answer, you know, because we're coming from the intellect. And I hope that by the end of this, you have more insight of what Tantra really is. And Tantra is alive. It lives in the practitioner. It lives in my body. If your body is moved by what I say, and you're going to start move it into your life, now Tantra lives through you. Tantra needs bodies to be alive. It's intrinsic within humanity. That's what I love about it. It's not just a book. The book is just a book. If there isn't a human that reads it and move it, it's nothing. So the human experience is really important.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
So also I want to give you grace and send a lot of blessing to your project, this podcast project. Thank you for being, I feel very honored that you breaking the ice together, that this has been the baptism of your project. So may it quiver and vibrate the tantric erotic understanding of reality. It brings you a lot of pleasure in your life, and a lot of growth for yourself and for everybody that is involved.
Thank you so much. And Valentina, hopefully our paths will cross at some point in Cape Town. I come quite often. My husband's South African, so we kind of travel, and so maybe one day I'll see you in South
I hope
Africa.
so. I shall hope so. If you are here in November, we have a big gathering of women in the wild. It's called the Red Retreat.
Oh,
We
wow.
gather 50, 60 women in outdoor, in nature, by the Breda River near Swellendam.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. So come to Turkey in June.
Oh,
Come
wow.
to Turkey. That is a beautiful retreat. It's called Divine Initiation. That's what I mentioned, where we teach, I take the text and then we take them into practice, and we practice in the
amazing.
ocean. We're gonna go for hiking to, there is an abandoned ghost village. We're gonna go do the Tandava there. So it's very integrated with living.
Yeah.
But I really like to bring the philosophy, because many people are really intimidated by the tantric philosophy. They think it's old knowledge and it's so hard to understand. It's not true. I want to demystify that. And I love it. It's like, it excites me. Reading the text is like, fuck, this is so mind expanding, you know? It's an eroticism. I'm having an erotic relationship with the text. That's also on my website. It's called Divine Initiation. So from Europe, it's
easier.
nice in June, and Turkey in June is amazing. It's the beautiful Mediterranean Sea.
Do you often do ones in Europe? Other ones? June's tricky, but will you do some next year, or?
I think so too.
Okay.
I'm sure I will. I
Okay.
also, after Turkey, I'll do one group in Milano, but I
Yeah.
will do that in Italian. I will
Yeah,
teach
okay.
in Italian. And then there's going to be also a group in Amsterdam
Okay.
that is still in the pipeline. But if you sign up for my mailing list, every time I do a new event, I'll send a mailer. So you don't have to check the website all the time.
I'll do that.
I think there are many projects that could be very valuable and interesting for your work too, you know, to merge this, because I come from the mystical realm. You know, you come from the clinical realm, but I feel there is a point of interception here that is so beautiful and really powerful, because you have an outreach that I can't have. You know, I'm too far out. But I think there is a lot of value to bring this teaching in that, because the simplicity, it's so immediate. And people respond really well because it's the manual, you know.
Yeah,
it's
that's
our
my
manual
hope.
of being human. Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll sign up, and we will definitely, our paths will cross. Thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Valentina,
you.
and we'll speak
Blessings.
soon. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Psychedelic Couch. For more episodes, please follow me on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts, and find me on Instagram at the Psychedelic Couch and at Claire Faulkner Therapy, where I will be keeping you up to date on the latest episodes and information surrounding all things therapy, psychedelics, and expanded states.